Leslie Bonci, welcome to the Soccer Queens podcast.
I am delighted to be here and talking all those things fueled, not fooled today.
I absolutely love your slogan. It is something we're going to get into today because there's a lot out there in the nutrition space and just a lot of misconceptions for female athlete performance. And I was so grateful to just meet you the other month at the Empower Her event. I had Ellie Mayberry on the podcast a few weeks ago, and now you're on. And it's just so amazing talking to women in the performance industry who have been at this for a while and who have impacted the lives of their athletes on the field as well as off. So maybe just tell everyone just your wealth of work and who you've worked with in the past and what you're up to today.
All right. Okay. So I'll give you the real brief version here is I've actually been a sports dietitian for probably 30 some years, have spent a lot of time with university athletes. I've been working with all of the university athletes at University of Pittsburgh, live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Carnegie Mellon, Point Park, Duquesne University, Robert Morris, and love working with my female athletes. Why? Because they listen more. That's a good thing. I've also had opportunities to work with the WNBA and some professional athletes, Natalie Coughlin as an Olympic swimmer, Tara Lipinski as an Olympic skater, and have just really always felt this, not only the connection, but the necessity, because women have always been on the short stick of getting the information. Let's talk to the football team. What? Let's talk to the women's soccer team, and let's talk to the swim team, and let's talk to the track and field athletes, and let's talk to the dancers and really help them understand that this movement is as critically important as any sport that they do.
You have such a wealth of experience, and you didn't mention the Kansas City Chiefs too, and you have worked with them in the past, and I'm sure my listeners are like, "Do you know Taylor Swift?"
I do not know Taylor Swift, and I was focusing more on the female athlete, but yes, have had spent 31 years in the NFL, 21 with the Steelers, and 10 with the Chiefs. And also, Steelers never had cheerleaders. The Chiefs do, so spent a lot of time with them because the cheerleaders are on the field a lot longer than the players are. They're moving the entire time. So, but no, I have not met Taylor Swift. So.
Darn, I really wanted to ask some questions and just have a completely different topic today. Just kidding. All right, so let's get into our topic today. I put together a list of the most common proper nutrition excuses I hear from female athletes and also their parents. We are going to totally bring the parents into the conversation on this because they impact their girls' nutrition. So the first excuse I hear a lot of with female athletes is, I don't have time to eat breakfast. So, how do we navigate this excuse and why is it critical they eat that first meal of the day?
Okay. So, and let me say first of all is I really think the parents are the nutrition coaches in the house. Is the parents are buying the equipment and that's the food. And in some cases the parents are prepping the equipment, so making the food. So there's definitely a role to be played there. So when we talk about breakfast, let's think about it this way. It would be like having a bicycle with flat tires. You're not going too far with them because because the tires aren't pumped up. And so the purpose of breakfast is to pump up, to prepare the body for the day. We wake up on empty because whatever it is we've eaten the night before, our body has used as a fuel source. And from the beginning of the day, the body's saying, okay, fuel the brain, fuel the body, let's go. And if we're not putting anything in, then the body is in catch-up mode over the course of the day. Oh, I'm trying to focus in class. Not happening. Or, oh, I'm really tired for my practice after school because the body has had to play catch up. So I do think that it's critically important. That being said, there's no one food that has to be a breakfast food. Some people don't like traditional breakfast foods like cereal or eggs. They'd rather have a piece of pizza. Have a piece of pizza. Absolutely fine to do that. But this whole issue of I don't have time. And my favorite thing that I hear, and I think I mentioned this in the talk, is I'm too tired to chew in the morning. I'm really not quite sure what that means because if we use our mouth, we're using our mouth. But if that is the case, could we do a smoothie? Yes, we could. Can a smoothie be prepared the night before? Yes, it can. It can be blended the night before, into the fridge it goes. All we have to do is shake it up in the morning. So that takes no time whatsoever. Or even the idea of like PBJ. Like PBJ, you can make it the night before. It's not going to get gross in the refrigerator, so we don't have to think about it in the morning, because that's always the issue. It isn't always that somebody's not hungry. Oh, I don't have time. Okay, let's take the time out of the equation because it's prepped. I already have the bowl of cereal that's sitting there on the counter. Don't have to put the milk in until the morning. That's quick. Overnight oats in those cute little jars that can actually go on the bus or in the car, or even if we're walking to school. And then handheld things. How about a trail mix? I mean, that's a really easy thing to do. So we take that excuse absolutely off the table. Gone.
I love that. And it sounds like there's really two options here. Prepare the night before, or maybe wake up a little bit earlier if you do want to have that cooked breakfast. Or if you don't want to wake up early, then have something fast like a shake or a smoothie, which I love. So yeah, that is off the table now. So glad you clarified that. Now, coming back to the parents, because I am not letting them off the hook in this conversation. I love that you said that they are the nutrition coaches. And I think that's surprising to a lot of parents. They don't feel that way. And I hear this a lot. Oh, my kid does not eat healthy. I can't get them to do this. I can't get them to eat breakfast or, bring snacks for a tournament. How do you respond to the parent excuses when they're complaining about their kids' bad eating?
So, first of all, to all the parents that are listening, what are your own eating habits? Because let me tell you something, your kids are modeling your behavior. Oh, I'm not going to eat breakfast. I'll just do coffee. No. Hey, could we all have something together? That is critically important. Also, I think as parents and being a parent and being a dietitian, right, all these things that done, it shouldn't just be the responsibility of the parent. You can ask questions to your kids. What do you like to eat? How about if we schedule like maybe 7 days of what breakfast might be so that you're not the only one having to think about it all the time? Get your kids involved the night before. It's all right, while we're doing the dishes, can we prep breakfast for the next day? And then it's already done. So it takes some of that away. And it also becomes a family activity and a priority. And quite frankly, parents, guess what? The coach is not going to be the nutrition coach. That's not the job of the coach to do so. It's your family, your kid. You know what they eat. You know what they don't eat. So your input is absolutely vital as part of this.
Now, I have a follow-up question to that because a lot of parents will hire a registered dietitian and outsource when their kid has these bad eating habits. And they think that the dietitian's going to be the panacea to the problems, which they might, but still, if the parent's not on board with what the dietitian's saying, then it can be kind of tough. So, I guess when should they work with a registered dietitian? What are some things they can't really do themselves where you guys might come in?
Okay, so I think one of the things is in working with not only a registered dietitian, but a sports dietitian, because we really want to make sure that we find the person who understands all the nuances of the sport that our kids do. But if we have concerns, health issues, so I work with young athletes that have diabetes. I work with young athletes that have food allergies. Those are things that are very specific to the expertise of somebody who has studied that and can make appropriate recommendations. I work with young athletes that have eating disorders or disordered eating, and it's very, very scary as a parent. That can't be the parent just handling it or choosing to ignore it. That really has to be working in conjunction with the RD. And I will tell you that if you're going to find somebody, you need to make sure that that registered dietitian is willing to work with you as well, not necessarily in the same session. I think kids need the autonomy. They need to be able to have a chance to talk with the RD and figure something out. And then you want to have that conversation with the registered dietitian as well. Is what kind of things did you recommend? Not asking your child to say, well, what did the dietitian tell you to do? Because guess what? You're going to get nothing out of it that way. So I am a very big believer in forging the relationship. It's the family dynamic, not just the athlete.
So let's come to the next excuse. This is my favorite one. It's so common, and I don't know how you can quote unquote forget this, but The next excuse is I forgot to drink water and hydrate.
Mm. Yeah. Well, there are people that I think view themselves as camels. It's like, I don't have to drink anything during the day. I'm not thirsty, or I don't want to pee during the day. Okay. Well, what goes in has to come out. So if that's a biological necessity. It is that way. But, think about this as an athlete, and every athlete that I worked with, I've never had one that said to me, I want to be the slowest. I want to be the weakest, and I want to be exhausted before I start, which is precisely what happens when we don't drink fluid. So although we don't think about this as I'm putting on my shin guards, I'm putting on my cleats, that's your external equipment, the internal equipment. Part of that is the hydration, and it never takes a vacation. It does not. And so really setting a schedule for those people that aren't routinely thirsty is okay. When I wake up in the morning, brushing teeth and drinking a glass of water. The last thing I do before bed, I'm having water before bed. So already we're bookending the day. If we bring something with us to school, and the good news is that pretty much most water fountains in most schools have been retrofitted. So you can just put your bottle underneath it, and there it is. And if we have it sitting out, that's a better reminder. It doesn't happen immediately. For people who don't drink a lot of fluid, if you all of a sudden drink it then you're going to feel like a lake. Like, what is that noise? I'm sloshing inside. You do it gradually, but really pairing. Every time I eat, I need to drink something. And when we start to think about it that way, then it becomes a routine habit.
You had a really cool visual at the Empower Her event with how to know if you are hydrated and dehydrated. So why don't you explain how we can tell?
Yes. And so this whole idea of see your pee, which never post on social media. Other people don't really need to see that. That is for your eyes alone. But in general, if we think about lemonade, think about the color of lemonade. It is light in color. It's a very, very light yellow. Think about the color of apple juice. Very dark. It's like a dark yellow, dark brown. The goal is not to have pee that looks like apple juice. That really would be like, alarm. We really want more lemonade color and also volume. So when we're peeing, really we should be peeing a lot, not a couple of little drips. Not to get graphic, but this is the way it is. And when does it become especially important is going to the bathroom before practice. Oh, when I went to the bathroom before practice, my urine was really dark in color and not that much. I will guarantee you're going to be slower, you're going to be weaker, and you're going to be fatigued. So kind of looking for that light and lots, that's really what we want to see.
Now, what are some other ways to get hydration in other than water? Because I know some of my girls said during the school day, they're not allowed to have a water bottle in class and they can't really drink liquids until right before practice after school. So, what are some other ways to get hydration in throughout the day?
Okay, so one of the things is making sure that before we go to school is taking advantage of the good news is it doesn't really take a lot of time to drink something. So if we're having a glass of juice or we're having milk in the morning as part of our meal on the way to school or before we leave the house, that would be number one. Number two is lunchtime. Is not just about the food we put in, but the fluid we have with it. So if we're buying school lunch, there typically are cartons of milk, juice, whatever. Maybe opportunity. I'm stopping at the water fountain now to have some more fluid because it is there. And also realizing that any fruit or vegetable that we have, and even like a banana, that seems like a dry food item, it actually is at least 90% water. So fruits and vegetables also provide us with significant fluid as well. So, as part of my breakfast, I had a banana and maybe I had an apple with lunch and I had some salad. That's hydrating, even though those are things that we chew, not things that we sip.
Awesome. Yeah, that's super helpful because I get that a lot when they're in school. They just feel like they're not able to hydrate. So thanks for touching on the food part of it because not a lot of people know that. Now, the next excuse is there's nothing healthy to eat at soccer tournaments or on the road.
And what I will say is that a lot of time, what is available, it depends upon the where we are, and soccer tournaments. It might be in little towns, and there just isn't necessarily a grocery store, maybe a dollar store or whatever. It gets a little bit challenging. So first and foremost, everybody that is traveling for soccer tournaments, you're packing stuff with you. You kind of have to because it's not like you get there and I need a pair of cleats or I need shin guards. No, you are responsible for bringing that. So, what are you putting? What's in your bag? What can you bring with you if you don't like what is available? And this means things that are shelf stable. Am I bringing trail mix? Could I bring a bar of some kind? Could I bring jerky? Because that is a protein source that actually does not have to be refrigerated. It is shelf stable. Could I bring some nuts? Could I bring packets of tuna? We have these types of things that are so readily available right now. Don't require putting in a fridge. You don't have to heat them up. They are easy to use. That's number one. Number two is when we think about what's available at tournament. Okay, what if somebody had a soft pretzel? Is that a carbohydrate? Yes, it is. That works. If there is, something like a burger, okay, that's protein. There's nothing wrong with having that. If it's a piece of pizza, what is a piece of pizza? It's carbohydrate, that's the dough. There's some protein on it, that's the cheese or whatever else is there. So it's kind of this distinction between what am I using to fuel versus thinking it's healthy or not. Personally, if I'm going to be engaged in physical activity, I'm going to tell you right now, just sitting down to what I might deem to be healthy, a salad, that's not going to do it because where is the energy that I need? It just doesn't work. Oh, look, they have some raw kale chips for me to nibble on. No, we don't typically find that because those are very pricey items. So, I think it's kind of changing that dialogue. What if we brought cereal with us? Wait, that's a pretty easy thing to do of something that actually travels well. And even milk that is available in the aseptic packaging, which means it does not have to be refrigerated. So it's not going to be something that goes bad in your bag. So that kind of the idea of packing the bag. If you bring it, then that takes that excuse out of the equation.
I love it. And I just love how you keep coming back to your concept of your nutrition is the internal equipment. You need to prioritize packing it as much as your shin guards, your cleats, your foam roller, your Theragun. It is so critical. So if you're worried about what's available at a tournament, then you can't really go wrong with packing your own snacks and shakes and just being over prepared. Now, with the protein, I hear a lot of girls saying, I'm afraid to eat protein because I'm going to get bulky. So that's the next excuse.
One of the things I think it's very important to understand is, in general, for women, when we do consume protein, the body already has a use for that protein. It is to preserve muscle, not always to increase it, to preserve what we have, and also bone health. Those are the main things, and support the immune system. Those are the big three that we're looking at. If somebody is doing heavy lifting and spending hours and hours in the gym, there is a potential for putting on more mass because that's what happens when you are lifting heavy weight. That is not just a function of eating turkey or having tuna or having an omelet. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to do the physical exercise as well. So that we don't have to worry about. But I do find a lot of my female athletes will say, I just don't want to eat a lot of animal source proteins, or I don't like them, or, I want to be plant-based. And I mean, that's all of those things are fine, but you still have to get the needs met. So even if somebody says, I'm not going to eat anything with a face, that doesn't take you off the hook for protein. You need it. But it's important for people to understand we get protein in vegetables. We get protein in peanut butter a little bit, but there's some. We get protein in any kind of rice, pasta, potato, bread, cereal. There is some protein that is there, as well as things like dairy and eggs and any kind of meat. The only thing we do not get protein from is fruit, and that includes avocado. So avocado toast, no protein. You got to find something else that you're going to add to it. If somebody says, I want to be plant-based, tofu in the many, many forms that it is, all of the veggie burger types of things that are out there on the marketplace, things like black beans. We could go to Chipotle, have to do the meat. Okay, I want more black beans, and I want the lettuce, and I'm going to have the rice, and I'm going to have the salsa and the guacamole. Perfect. That works to do it.
You also said at the Empower Her event that if you're going to put chickpeas on your salad, please make it more than 3 meager chickpeas to get
Yeah,
your protein needs.
and this is the
Yeah.
thing people don't always understand is like, okay, well, I'm plant-based and I'm getting enough. If I ask the question, well, what are you eating? Well, I had a sip of lentil soup, or I had a salad that maybe had 5 lonely little black beans on it. Now, those are plants, but one of the things about plant-based protein is that you have to eat more of them to get the same amount of protein as you would from an animal source food. And that's because plants have a lot of carbohydrate in them naturally. They're not 100% protein like an animal source food is. So if you want to put chickpeas or black beans or something on the salad, we're talking a good cup, about the size of a fist is what it needs to be, not just a tiny little teaspoon that won't cut it.
Now, you did talk about the training part of getting bulky, and I'll just say that if soccer players are working with the right performance coach in their area, they're not doing hours and hours of high volume lifts. They should be like 30 to 45 minutes. So just keep that in mind and then pair it with the proper nutrition. So I'm glad you touched on the training part because this is not bodybuilding.
Right. And the other thing that I think it's really important is that even when I have people that want to increase their protein, it's not just protein alone. Yeah, when the goal is to preserve muscle, or if somebody's desire is to build some muscle, you have to have the perfect recipe there, and that is both protein and carbohydrate. It's not just I'm downing copious amounts of protein powder all day long. We don't want that to be the case because then you're going to be slower because your body doesn't have the fuel that it needs to be able to perform on the field.
Now let's talk supplements because I know you're really passionate about this one. There's a lot of nonsense on the internet. I mean, there's the colostrum craze, having green powders and detoxes and just supplements I can't even pronounce anymore that I just don't even know what they do. I guess when should female athletes supplement and how to know if you truly need one?
So I think the first thing is that when we talk about supplements, what is it that we're talking about? So a supplement could be a vitamin, mineral, like a multivitamin or even individual vitamin. A supplement is a protein powder. I mean, honestly, that is a supplement because you're not finding that on the shelves in the grocery store in your refrigerator. It's something you're intentionally adding to a food. A sports drink is a supplement. It's not the meal, it's the supplement to what we're doing to optimize performance. Even things like the goos, the gels, the chews, all that, that is a supplement. So it's a pretty broad based kind of a thing. So, first of all, who would need it? So, if somebody has blood work done and they have a deficiency, I work with a lot of female athletes that have low iron levels. It's really difficult to correct that with food alone. It's almost impossible. And so they may need to take an iron supplement to bring their levels back up to normal. I have a lot of female and male athletes that have low vitamin D levels. And that's another one that it's not just about being in the sunshine, it just is that way. Some people have low D levels and they need to take a vitamin D supplement. If I have somebody that has food allergies, particular types of food or intolerances that they can't eat, then they might have to supplement because they're not able to get some of those things in the food alone. Particularly people who choose not to have dairy or people that are lactose intolerant and don't eat dairy, either allergic or intolerant, then more calcium. And it's not that we don't get calcium from plant-based foods, we do, but we don't get enough to support that active body. And we're talking about bodies still growing, not necessarily bodies that are done growing. So it becomes another issue. But my take home on all of this, first of all, supplement is a complement to eating, not a replacement for. Oh, Leslie, I didn't have time for breakfast. I'll take a chewable Flintstone. That is not the answer because that is not the food for the body. It's vitamin and mineral. So that's not a source of calories. Really important to understand that. So if there are deficiencies, yes, there might be a reason. If we have a picky palate and maybe we're not eating any fruits or vegetables, and I would implore you all, like, please, even just try a little bit, then that might be a reason to do a supplement. But that's a multivitamin mineral. It's not a greens powder. That is not a salad. That is not a stir fry vegetable when we do it. That's just a lot of add in of things that we don't need. If somebody says, I don't know that I get in enough protein and I want to think about using protein, then I am a fan of protein isolates, meaning the only thing that's in it is the protein itself, not all the other bells and whistles. We don't need those. Collagen, although it's incredibly popular, is an extremely poor quality protein. That is not the same as using a whey protein isolate or using soy protein isolate. People put it in their coffee and hope for beautiful skin. Like, that's even a little bit debatable, but that won't help at all. So, yeah, and I think because also there's so many things that are out here, this is also where working with a sport dietitian can be really, really helpful to cut through the nonsense, to clean the clutter and to really determine based upon what eating is, if indeed there is a need for the supplementation. Not the person who works in the vitamin shop health food store because their goal is to sell. And that's great. That's what they're there to do, but that's not necessarily the right guidance. And then the other thing I'll say about this, parents in particular, your kids are not adults. Their needs are different than what they are for an adult. And that's my other concern, that when we start supplementing too much, it's a level that's just too high. Many of the things that we eat are fortified. Cereal is a great way to get vitamins and minerals because they're there in that product. For anybody that eats a bar in any way, shape, or form, there's a ton of bars that are out there. Take a look at the back of that label, and oftentimes you will say, oh, look, there's B vitamins and magnesium and other things that are there too.
It's so important people get the blood work done because I see a lot of girls just taking supplements without even knowing there's a deficiency there. And you said some of the most common deficiencies you've seen are iron, vitamin D. Are there any other labs that girls should consider ordering with an RD if they work with someone to really dig deeper?
Typically, the B vitamins will be done as part of the whole panel. Certainly for people that are plant-based, typically we're going to see B12 levels that are low because vitamin B12 is found primarily in animal foods. And if those levels are low, yeah, that is a cause for concern. I will tell you as well that when I have families that maybe parents are eating a low carb diet for whatever reason they are, and their kids are eating the same foods because that's what's available, we tend to see B vitamin levels that are low because most people aren't filling up on spinach. They're not. And it is the carbohydrates that provide those B vitamins. So we don't want to induce deficiency. So it's really important to have a baseline. Nobody likes having their blood drawn, I know, but it really is the only way of knowing what's going on. That's the data that we need so that we can make informed decisions.
Now, you mentioned collagen, and that's a big one on the market now. And there's so many companies putting collagen supplements out there and promising, oh, you'll get glowing skin and thick hair and better nails. And then you see colostrum as well. You'll heal all of your gut issues with just this supplement. And I think so many people get duped by it. And a lot of young girls too, because there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's just so much misinformation out there. And they're just fooled into thinking this one supplement is this magical elixir to sport performance or reduced injury or like beauty hacks. And I kind of just want you to hammer home why it's so dangerous to look at a lot of these supplements and just kind of how to sift through the noise.
So let's start with collagen. And the studies that have been done on this, at least related to performance, have primarily been done if there has been injury present and using collagen to help with healing. But it is a pretty significant amount of collagen at a medical grade collagen, which isn't what many of the ones out there, in conjunction with vitamin C. And there is a particular protocol for that. The results have been mixed. It's not always a guarantee that, okay, I was injured and I take collagen and now I'll be back on the field the next day. That's not what the studies say. With the other things related to collagen levels decline as we get older. They do. So for a young girl to take collagen, is it going to help your skin? Well, no, because you have enough collagen already in your body. Collagen is also in our bones. And so, however, when we are eating foods and we're consuming enough vitamin C, we're doing the things that we need to do. So if somebody said, well, I heard that collagen was good for me and good for my complexion, whatever. So I'll just do collagen in my coffee and I won't think about any other protein. Now you're shortchanging your body because that collagen does not work the same way as the milk in a latte would. So there is the problem. That replacement isn't necessarily better. when it comes to something like colostrum, which primarily is colostrum, that's why we encourage women to breastfeed their babies so that they're getting that protective effect to help to support a healthy immune system. Other than that, this is why animals, same thing. It's why they feed their babies. But other than that, no, it doesn't. And the problem again is a replacement. Oh, I'm doing that instead of something else. It's not a one for one. So if we create deficiencies, that is not what should be happening as a result of supplementation. I think it's also critically important that people think about the cost. These things are ridiculously expensive. So when I'm seeing a product that says fat burner, red flag, no, no, avoid. If I'm seeing something that says gain, that's usually one I would say, because there actually might be something in there that, although it's not illegal to sell, in some cases it is, it can be impermissible in sports. And that's a very big concern. Is I've seen that with some of my collegiate athletes, is we're not going there. We are not wanting to do that, to take anything that could be problematic. And I think as well for parents in particular, if you have kids that have underlying allergies, it's really important to look at what is in those supplements, because sometimes there are ingredients in those supplements that can exacerbate an allergy. And that can really be quite dangerous. So we have to be the detectives that are out there and not forget about the fact that the first checklist needs to be what's on the plate, what's in the bowl, what's in the glass, more than, oh, here's the pill or the powder or the liquids that I'm taking with it.
Thank you for clarifying that. I just get so annoyed when I see all the influencers with their discount codes for their colostrum and they have filters on. So yeah, your skin does look great, but sweetie, you're filtered.
Oh, I will.
Sorry. I mean, it's just false advertising. It's really sad. And I really want female athletes to use discernment here.
It is so important because those influencers, say sinfluencers oftentimes the word I use, but they can't eat for you, they can't move for you, they can't sleep for you, they can't do anything for you, and they don't really care about you, to be honest. It's about them and the money that they're getting from it. So, I have to say here that my goal is always to help people feel empowered, to feel educated, to feel enabled. Yes, I can. And we can't do a replacement. We haven't evolved as a human species to say the only thing we need to subsist on is air. It's not that way. We need the fuel. So, last thing about supplements is this. If you think, okay, I don't really have to eat a meal, just turn that supplement around, do the flip and read, and look at the calories. Oh, zero. Well, that won't really fuel me for any extended period of time. And that's going to be true. Most supplements, especially the vitamin mineral types of things, they don't have calories in them. And even when we look at some of the protein powders or these types of things, they're not a huge amount of, or it's just protein. What about the carb? What about the fat? What about the other things that we need? We're not going to provide it. We're not going to find it in a supplement because that's a very isolated component of a foodstuff.
Yeah, the calories aren't looked at a lot either. And a lot of our girls do struggle with under eating and not getting enough calories. So, how can they know if under eating is an issue for them? What are some of the first signs of that?
So typically, when we're looking at what would happen is how do we feel? How do we feel when we practice? You know, I know this position. I know how to be a midfielder. I know how to be a keeper. Why is this so difficult today? Why am I having trouble keeping up, keeping on? It could be because the body is underfueled. Secondly, that ability to focus and concentrate in class, not even on the field. Ah, it's harder for me. All of a sudden, mood changes. So I say, you were always so nice. And now it's like, whoa, whoa, watch out. Well, that can happen because if the brain isn't fueled, it's like everything feels like that much more of an effort. And so those would all be warning signs. And parents need to pay attention to these cues from your kids. It is critically important. And sometimes, unfortunately, that can be the initial starting of the red flag waving for eating disorder and disordered eating behaviors. And sometimes it happens. Don't feel guilty about it as a parent. Help your child. Don't ignore it. Be involved. Help your child. That is critically important. And the one other thing about that, and we could talk about that for hours on end, is that when we think we are energizing ourselves, and we're not. So this kind of relates a little bit back to the supplements. Ugh, I'm really tired before practice. So I'll have a 5 hour energy or something like this or a sugar-free Red Bull because that will energize me because it says energy on the front. But sugar-free Red Bull has how many calories? That would be 0. The 5 hour energy has 4 calories. Well, that means less than 1 calorie per hour. So that's not going to cut it either. That term gets used interchangeably, but energy, well, great, that's what I need. When it's on those types of things, that's a stimulant. That's not a source of energy because it doesn't have calories in it. In other countries of the world, they call them stimulant drinks because that's what they are, not energy drinks.
I think it is so important for parents to pay attention to those early warning signs, that decline in performance, that lack of focus and energy. And sadly, I see this a lot. Parents think it's a training issue and they're not looking at, oh, maybe she needs to eat more and have more nutrients. So parents will hire me to fix her game because she's looking slow or not conditioned. And it's like, we need more training, we need more training. But then they're not fixing the nutrition. So I really encourage parents to look at the bigger picture and zoom out, because it's not always we need more training. We need to get more reps.
We need to think, and I'm selfish about this, is the training table, right? So it's not just the training on the field; it's what is being served at home. And as parents, again, role modeling. What do you do with your own eating? Do you say things out loud about your body? Because don't, because everybody hears. Other ears hear what it is that we say. And it is critically important to think about this positively, is really think about food as fuel, or create in your home a performance kitchen. This is it, is that's the role that parents play as a nutrition coach, to be aware and to help provide that food, that fuel, even packing the bag or packing the snacks that go in the bag so it takes those excuses off of the table. That's how I love to have parents involved in this.
I think that's such brilliant advice to end on. And there's a lot of parents who listen to this podcast, and I would love for them to just follow up with you and just check out your amazing work. So, where can everyone find you?
My website is activeeatingadvice.com, fit, fed, and fearless. That's the underlying part of it. And Performance 365 at outlook.com is the other one. And it's in its state of revision at the moment. But Active Eating Advice is certainly out there and available. And I would encourage anybody to reach out. I mean, to me, when we think about the athlete, the athletes in the middle, and we're all part of the pit crew, whether we are the coaches, the dietitian, sports medicine, parents. We are all there as the spokes in the wheel, and our goal is to help our athletes strive and thrive and not just survive.
Awesome. So, parents, you heard that. You are the nutrition coaches. So, definitely follow Leslie's work if you need help, or if you want to work with her or have your daughter work with her. She's just so fantastic at what she does. And she's really trying to spread really good information on nutrition for our girls. So, Leslie, thank you again. And I will see everyone on the next episode.